3 minutes into a glittering charity gala, a woman in white goes up in flames. Not from a candle, not from an accident, but from something darker. Betrayal. She is 7 months pregnant. The room freezes. Cameras keep rolling. Two lives hang in the balance. A mother fighting for her baby and a father whose money bought him power, but not mercy. Tonight you'll see how a seemingly perfect marriage unravels into a scheme of insurance, embezzlement, and murder for hire. You'll meet the calculating aunt who hides poison behind pearls, the mistress who lights the match, and the billionaire father who refuses a quiet courtroom. He wants the world to watch. By the end, justice won't be private. It will be public, theatrical, and unforgettable. Stay with us. The moment that shocks the gala will change everything. If this hook grabbed you, hit like, drop a comment, share the story, and subscribe so you don't miss the reveal. Everyone asks the same question. How did you not see it coming? The truth? I did. I saw every single red flag waving in my face. But when you're 7 months pregnant and the man you married looks you in the eyes and says, "I love you," you make a choice. You choose to believe. That choice almost killed me, but what it did to him, that was so much worse. My name is Emma Sterling. This is the story of how my husband tried to burn me alive at a charity gala in front of 200 people, and how my father made sure the whole world watched him pay for it. But let me take you back to the moment the flames caught. I smelled it before I felt it. Not champagne, something sharper, chemical. The liquid soaked through my ivory Valentino gown, cold against my pregnant belly. Jessica Lawson stood 3 feet away, her hand still raised from throwing her flask at me. Her eyes weren't drunk anymore. They were calculating. Cold. "That's not vodka," I said, my voice strange in my own ears. "What is that?" Jessica pulled a lighter from her clutch, flicked it once. The small flame danced in the darkness of the outdoor balcony. "Vodka mixed with lighter fluid," she said, her voice flat, emotionless. "Kyle said it would burn hot and fast. He said you wouldn't suffer long." The words didn't make sense. Kyle, my husband. "Kyle told you to—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "He paid me $50,000, Jessica said. Said the insurance would cover everything. Said we'd split $16 million. She tossed the lighter. Time fractured into pieces. The flame arced through the air, impossibly slow. It touched the fabric of my dress. Then everything was fire. The pain was instant, absolute. Flames raced up my chest, across my arms, reaching for my face. I screamed, spinning, trying to pat out the fire, but my hands were burning too. My only thought, the baby. Protect the baby, I heard shouting, running footsteps. Then someone tackled me hard, rolling me across the cold marble floor. A jacket smothered the flames. White foam from a fire extinguisher covered everything. "My baby," I sobbed, hands pressed to my belly. "Please, my baby." "She's breathing," someone said. "The baby's moving." I looked up through tears and smoke. My father's security chief, Marcus, knelt beside me, his jacket still smoking. Beyond him, 200 guests in evening wear crowded the doorway, phones raised, recording everything. The Sterling Foundation charity gala had become a crime scene. Police tackled Jessica as she tried to slip away. She was screaming now, the cold calculation gone, replaced by panic. "It was an accident. I was drunk. I didn't mean to." But her designer knockoff purse lay open on the ground. Police found receipts for lighter fluid purchased that morning. A burner phone, and most damning, $25,000 in cash, neatly banded, the first half of her payment. My husband Kyle pushed through the crowd. His face was a perfect mask of horror. "Emma! Oh my God, Emma!" He dropped to his knees beside me as paramedics arrived, took my burned hand in his so gently. "Baby, I'm here, you're going to be okay." I looked into his eyes, the eyes I'd loved for 6 years, the eyes I'd trusted. "Did you do this?" I whispered. He cried, real tears streaming down his face. "No, God, no. Emma, I love you. I would never, I could never." I wanted to believe him. Even then, with my skin burning and my dress destroyed, I wanted to believe the man I married wouldn't try to murder me while I was pregnant with his child. The paramedics loaded me onto a stretcher. As they wheeled me toward the ambulance, I saw my father, Robert Sterling, 64 years old, billionaire, the most powerful man I knew. He stood frozen in the doorway, face white, hands shaking. Our eyes met. "Dad," I mouthed. He followed the stretcher, grabbed the paramedic's arm. "I'm coming with her." "Family only, sir." "I'm her father." His voice broke. "And if she dies, I will burn this entire city down to find who did this." They let him in the ambulance. Kyle tried to follow, but Marcus blocked him. "You stay here," Marcus said quietly. "Police want to talk to you." The ambulance doors closed. Through the small window, I saw Kyle standing in the parking lot, police surrounding him, his face pale in the flashing lights. That was the last time I saw my husband as a free man. But I didn't know that yet. I didn't know that in Jessica's burner phone, police would find the text messages from Kyle's number with step-by-step instructions for the attack. I didn't know about the $8 million life insurance policy Kyle had taken out on me 3 weeks earlier. The one with double indemnity for accidental death. $16 million if I died in a fire that looked like a jealous mistress's crime of passion. I didn't know that my husband's plan had started 6 months ago, carefully orchestrated. I didn't know his Aunt Patricia had helped him every step of the way. I didn't know she was the real architect, the puppet master pulling strings while Kyle played his role. All I knew was pain, fire climbing my arms, my baby kicking inside me, alive but in danger, and my father's hand gripping mine as the ambulance sped toward the hospital. "Hold on, Emma," he whispered. "Just hold on. I've got you." But he didn't have me. Not really, because in the next 72 hours I would lose everything. My husband would be arrested, but then released on bail. My baby would be born 2 months early and taken away. My father would have a heart attack and fall into a coma. And I would discover that the people I trusted most had been planning my death for months. This is the story of that fire. But more than that, it's the story of what came after. How my father and I fought back. How we gathered evidence while they thought they'd won. And how we orchestrated the most public, devastating revenge Manhattan's elite society had ever witnessed. They tried to burn me alive at a charity gala, so we destroyed them at another one, with 800,000 people watching live. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. 3 months before the fire, when I still thought my marriage could be saved, when I still believed in love more than I believed in revenge. 3 months before the fire, I sat in my doctor's office on the Upper East Side and listened to her tell me my baby might die if I didn't eliminate stress from my life. Dr. Richardson was 50-something, calm and direct. She'd guided me through 3 devastating miscarriages over 2 years. This pregnancy, my 4th attempt, was supposed to be different. High risk, yes, but viable. Possible. Until my blood pressure started climbing. 160 over 110, Dr. Richardson said, looking at the monitor. "That's preeclampsia range, Emma. Combined with your history of miscarriages and your age, we're in dangerous territory." I was checking my phone, barely listening. Kyle hadn't texted all day. Again. "Emma." Dr. Richardson's voice sharpened. "Are you hearing me?" "I feel fine," I said, putting the phone down. "I've handled worse stress than pregnancy." This isn't a negotiation. One major stressor, one emotional crisis could trigger premature labor, placental abruption, or stroke. I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you medical fact. Another shock to your system could kill this baby, and possibly you. That got my attention. How major are we talking? Finding out your husband is cheating? That major. Losing your bum? That major. You need to eliminate stress, not manage it. I touched my belly. The baby kicked, strong and insistent. A little fighter, just like me. "Understood," I said. "I'll be careful." But I was already stressed about something. About the distance between Kyle and me. About the late nights at the office. About the way he looked at his phone and quickly turned it away when I walked into the room. I drove home to our Tribeca penthouse, the one my father had bought us as a wedding gift. Kyle wasn't there. His text came at 8 that night, working late. "Don't wait up." I ate dinner alone. Again, went to bed alone again, and tried not to think about what Dr. Richardson had said about stress and emotional crises. The next day, my father called me to his office. Robert Sterling's corner office on the 57th floor of Sterling Capital Management had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. He built his empire from nothing, starting in construction and expanding into private equity and real estate. Now he owned half the buildings we could see from his window. He sat behind his massive desk, silver-haired and imposing in a custom Tom Ford suit. His head of security, Marcus, stood nearby, ex-FBI, loyal to my father for 15 years. "Sit down, sweetheart," my father said. I knew that tone. Something was wrong. Marcus slid a tablet across the desk. Photos filled the screen. Kyle and a woman entering an apartment building. Kyle and the same woman at a hotel in Connecticut. The woman at a doctor's office, holding an ultrasound photo. My hands went cold. "Who is she?" "Jessica Lawson," Marcus said. "Senior Marketing Director at Sterling Capital. She's been working here for 4 years." "How long?" I asked, my voice steady despite the sick feeling in my stomach. "6 weeks that we've documented," Marcus said. "Possibly longer." I looked at the ultrasound photo, zoomed in. The date stamp read 4 weeks ago. "She's pregnant." "Yes," my father said quietly. I set the tablet down, breathed. My baby kicked again, as if reminding me she existed. She needed me calm, needed me safe. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Because you need to leave him, Emma. Today. Tonight. I'll have lawyers draw up divorce papers. You'll have full custody, full financial support. Kyle will be removed from the company." "You'll destroy him," I said. "Yes. Because you never thought he was good enough for me." My father leaned forward, eyes intense. "I'm destroying him because he's cheating on my pregnant daughter and gambling away your inheritance. He's lost $800,000 in the last 18 months, Emma. Online poker, sports betting. I've been covering his debts to keep you from being stressed during the pregnancy." The room tilted. $800,000? You knew you've been paying his debts and you didn't tell me? You were already high risk. I didn't want to add stress. That wasn't your decision to make. I stood up, grabbed my purse. My father stood too. "Emma, wait. No, you don't get to control my life. You don't get to decide when I know the truth about my own husband. I'm trying to protect you. By lying to me, that's not protection, Dad. That's control." I left his office, got in my car, drove home, sat in the parking garage for 20 minutes, crying, trying to calm down. Dr. Richardson's voice echoed in my head. One major stressor, one emotional crisis. I went upstairs. Kyle was home early for once, sitting at the kitchen table with credit card statements spread out in front of him. He looked up when I walked in, guilt flashing across his face before he could hide it. "Emma, hey, I was just reviewing our accounts." I sat down across from him, picked up one of the statements. PokerStars.com, DraftKings, BetMGM, $47,000 in 1 month. "Kyle, I said quietly, what is this?" "Emma, I can explain. $47,000 on gambling. You promised you stopped. You swore after rehab that you were done. Your father is driving me insane." Kyle's voice rose, defensive. "Do you know what it's like working for that man? Being talked down to every single day? Being reminded that everything I have is because I married you? So you gamble away my money? Money my mother left me before she died?" Kyle stood abruptly, grabbed a glass from the counter. For a second, I thought he was going to drink from it. Instead, he threw it at the wall near my head. It shattered. Glass rained down 3 feet from where I sat. I flinched, hand going instinctively to my belly. My baby. Protect my baby. Kyle stared at his hand like he didn't recognize it. The anger drained from his face, replaced by horror. "Emma, God, Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... I would never..." I stood up slowly, backing toward the door. "You threw something at me while I'm pregnant." "I threw it at the wall. Not at you, never at you." He moved toward me, hands raised placatingly. "Baby, I'm not myself. The pressure from your father, the gambling, I'm becoming my dad. Emma, my father killed himself because of gambling debts. I'm terrified I'm turning into him." He dropped to his knees in front of me, sobbing. real, ugly crying. Please don't leave me. Not now. Not before I get help. I'll go back to therapy. I'll join Gamblers Anonymous. I'll prove I can change. Just give me 2 weeks. Please. I looked down at him. Kyle Brennan, 38 years old, Wharton MBA, trust fund baby whose family lost everything in 2008. The man I'd loved for 6 years. The father of my unborn child. This was my fatal flaw. The thing that would almost get me killed. I believed love could fix addiction. I believed I could save him if I just tried hard enough. 2 weeks, I said, but if you mess up once, I won't. I swear on our baby's life. I swear, Emma. He hugged my legs, still crying. I put my hand on his head, stroking his hair like I would comfort a child. I should have left that night, should have listened to my father, should have seen what Kyle really was, a weak man drowning in debt and desperation, capable of terrible things to avoid consequences. But I didn't leave. I gave him 2 weeks. 1 week later, Kyle drove to a strip mall in New Jersey and took out an $8 million life insurance policy on me. He forged my signature, added a double indemnity clause for accidental death. $16 million if I died in a fire, a car crash, a fall from a building. He wasn't trying to change. He was planning my murder. And I had no idea. Kyle sat in his car outside a strip mall insurance office in Jersey City, hands shaking on the steering wheel. His phone showed his bank account, negative $12,000. His credit cards, maxed out. His offshore gambling debts, $1.2 million and climbing. He'd promised Emma he would change. He'd meant it when he said it, but that was before his bookie called, voice polite but threatening. Mr. Brennan, we're friends, right? But even friends have to pay their debts. $1.2 million. You have 2 weeks or we start breaking things. First your kneecaps, then maybe we visit your pretty pregnant wife. Kyle ended the call and threw up in a gas station bathroom. That was 4 days ago. Now he sat outside this insurance office because his Aunt Patricia had called him with a solution. His aunt who'd always looked down on MR and her father. Old Boston money sneering at New Manhattan wealth. Kyle, darling, Patricia had said on the phone, her voice smooth as silk. I hear you're in trouble. How did you? I make it my business to know these things. Your bookie is one of mine. I own a few pharmaceuticals, remember? Pain medication. Very profitable, very connected to people who take bets. Kyle's stomach had turned. Aunt Patricia, I don't understand. You're sitting on $8 million and you don't even know it. Emma's trust fund, her inheritance, her father's company, all that money, and you're living off his charity, working a job you hate, married to a woman who'll never really be one of us. Emma is common. Her father is construction money dressed up in expensive suits. But that money could be yours, Kyle, all of it. If you were widowed with a child, Robert Sterling would give anything for his only grandchild. Kyle had gone silent, understanding creeping in. I'm talking about solving your problems. All of them, your debts, your pride, your future. Jessica Lawson is pregnant with your child too, isn't she? How do you know about Jessica? I told you I make it my business. She's desperate, Kyle. Single mother, working class background, pregnant and afraid. She'd do almost anything for money. And you need Emma gone before Robert's forensic accountants find the $23 million I've been moving out of Sterling Capital. Kyle's blood went cold. You've been embezzling? We've been embezzling. You signed the transfers, darling. As CFO, you're legally responsible. If Robert finds out before we finish, we both go to prison. Unless what? Unless Emma has a terrible accident, tragic, public, clearly not your fault. You collect the insurance money, pay your debts, marry Jessica eventually. I keep embezzling, cover my tracks, and we split everything. You get wealth and freedom. I get my money and revenge on Robert Sterling for looking down on our family. Now Kyle sat in the insurance office parking lot, Patricia's words echoing in his head. His phone buzzed, a text from Emma. Doctor appointment went well. Baby is healthy. Love you. He stared at the message. Emma's face appeared in his mind, her smile the day they got married, her tears after the miscarriages, her hand on her belly, protective and loving. Then he thought about his kneecaps being broken, about being arrested for embezzlement, about spending the rest of his life in prison. He got out of the car. Inside the insurance office, Frank, a sleazy agent in his 50s with coffee-stained teeth, reviewed Kyle's application. You want to increase life insurance on your wife from 1 million to 8 million? She's high-risk pregnancy, Kyle said, 3 miscarriages. I'm worried. Your concern is touching, but insurance companies don't love massive increases right before risky life events. Makes them suspicious. Kyle swallowed. What if the policy had a double indemnity clause? Frank leaned forward, interested now. Accidental death pays double, 16 million, but your premiums would be substantial. I don't care about premiums. Can you do it? I'll need your wife's signature. Kyle pulled out a document from their mortgage papers. He'd practiced Emma's signature for hours last night until he could replicate it perfectly. She already signed. Frank examined the signature. He knew it was fake. Kyle knew he knew. But Frank's commission on an $8 million policy with double indemnity would be enormous. I'll have the policy active in 72 hours, Frank said, not meeting Kyle's eyes. You're a lucky man, Mr. Brennan. $8 million wife. Kyle left the office feeling sick. What was he doing? This was Emma, the woman he'd loved, the mother of his child. But then his phone buzzed, his bookie. 2 weeks until kneecaps, the text read, followed by a photo of a baseball bat. Kyle called his aunt. It's done, he said. The insurance policy is active. Good boy, Patricia said. Now let me tell you about Jessica and what we need her to do. Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia orchestrated everything. She researched Emma's vulnerabilities through private investigators. She discovered Emma's high-risk pregnancy status, her doctor's warning about stress. She found Emma's schedule, her habits, her routines. She approached Jessica separately, playing the concerned family member. My nephew is trapped in an abusive marriage, Patricia told Jessica over coffee. Emma's father controls everything. Kyle is desperate to leave, but Robert Sterling will destroy him in a divorce. Take his child, ruin his career. He loves you, dear. He wants to be with you and your baby, but he needs help. Jessica, 29 and pregnant and scared, wanted to believe it. What kind of help? Financial leverage. If Emma were to have an accident, Kyle would inherit through their child. He'd be free to divorce, to be with you, to pay for your baby's future. An accident? Jessica's voice shook. I mean making it look like you snapped from jealousy. Attack Emma publicly at the Sterling Foundation Gala. Make it look emotional, like a crime of passion. You'll spend maybe 3 years in prison. I'll pay you $200,000. Your daughter will be cared for while you're away. And when you get out, Kyle will be wealthy and grateful. I can't kill someone. You won't kill her. Kyle just needs her injured enough to trigger early labor. The stress will cause complications. Natural causes, not murder. And you'll be the sympathetic villain. Jealous mistress? Pregnant and emotional. Jessica hesitated. $200,000. Her daughter's medical bills paid. A future with Kyle. She said yes. Patricia paid her $50,000 up front through Kyle. Then Patricia sent Jessica detailed instructions from a burner phone. Wait for Emma alone on the balcony. Use 3 parts vodka to 1 part lighter fluid. Throw it at her dress, not her face. Light it fast. Kyle will act horrified. You'll be arrested but protected. Jessica bought the lighter fluid from 3 different stores so no single purchase would look suspicious. She practiced the throw in her apartment, measuring distance and trajectory. And Kyle? Kyle spent those 2 weeks watching Emma, touching her belly, feeling his daughter kick, hating himself but too weak to stop. The night before the gala, Emma found him sitting in the nursery they decorated together. Hey, she said softly, coming to stand beside him. You okay? Kyle looked up at her. She glowed in the dim light, 7 months pregnant, beautiful and trusting. I love you, he said. It was true. Even planning her death, it was true. I love you too, Emma said. Tomorrow will be good. Your therapy is helping. We're going to be okay. She kissed his forehead and left. Kyle sat alone in the nursery and cried. But he didn't call it off. He was too weak, too scared, too desperate. The next night at the Sterling Foundation Gala, Jessica Lawson would throw lighter fluid on Emma's dress and set her on fire in front of 200 people. And Kyle Brennan would act like the devastated husband, never expecting that every security camera, every guest's phone, and every piece of evidence would eventually point straight back to him. Because Patricia made one critical miscalculation. She underestimated Robert Sterling, and she definitely underestimated his daughter. The Sterling Grand Ballroom on the night of the gala was spectacular. 300 guests in formal wear, crystal chandeliers reflecting light off polished marble floors, white roses arranged in towering displays. Through floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan's skyline glittered like a promise. This was Robert Sterling's crown jewel, the venue where Manhattan's elite gathered to write checks for charity and see who wore what designer gown. Tonight's cause, Children's Hospital Research. $22 million raised by the time speeches ended. None of it would matter in 2 hours. Emma arrived with Kyle at 8 o'clock. She wore the ivory Valentino gown Sophie, her best friend from college, had designed specifically for her. Empire waist to accommodate her 7-month belly, draped silk that moved like water, elegant without being ostentatious. Cameras flashed as they walked the red carpet. "Emma, you look radiant. How are you feeling?" "Grateful," Emma said, touching her belly where the baby kicked. "Excited to meet our daughter in 2 months." "Kyle, proud father-to-be?" Kyle put his arm around Emma, playing the perfect husband. "Most proud. My girls are my whole world." They moved into the ballroom. Robert stood near the entrance, greeting guests. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities. When he saw Emma, his face softened. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." He kissed her cheek, then lowered his voice. "How are you feeling?" "Really?" "Good, Dad. Really good." Robert looked at Kyle. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. "Kyle." "Robert." Awkward silence. Emma squeezed her father's hand. "Dad, please, tonight can we just be a family?" Robert nodded stiffly. "Of course, go enjoy yourself. I need to give a speech in an hour." As Emma walked away, Robert grabbed Kyle's arm, fingers digging in. "If you hurt her tonight," Robert said, voice too low for anyone else to hear, "if you upset her in any way, I will destroy you. Are we clear?" "Crystal," Kyle said, pulling his arm away. Robert's assistant approached with a tablet. "Mr. Sterling, the live stream is active. We have 300,000 viewers already." "Good," Robert said, eyes still on Kyle. "Make sure every camera angle is covered." "The live stream?" Robert insisted on it every year for transparency, for engagement, for publicity. Tonight, it would document everything. Emma mingled with guests, accepting congratulations on her pregnancy. Sophie found her near the champagne fountain. "You look amazing," Sophie said, hugging her carefully. "How's the baby?" "Active. She's been kicking all day." Emma smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Have you seen Kyle?" "He's at the bar. Emma, are you okay? You seem tense." "Just tired. This dress is gorgeous, but standing for 2 hours while 7 months pregnant is exhausting. Go sit down. I'll bring you water." But before Emma could move, she saw her. Jessica Lawson standing near the entrance in a red dress that was slightly too tight, one hand unconsciously touching her stomach. Their eyes met across the ballroom. Jessica's expression was complex. Guilt, fear, determination. Emma felt ice in her stomach. She'd known about the affair for 2 weeks but hadn't confronted Jessica, hadn't wanted the stress. Dr. Richardson's warning echoed constantly. One major emotional crisis could kill the baby. So Emma had avoided, pretended, hoped Kyle would end it quietly. Now Jessica was here, at her father's charity gala, and the ice in Emma's stomach spread. Kyle appeared at Emma's elbow, face pale. "Emma, let's go outside. You need air." "I'm fine here. Please, you're overheated. The baby needs you calm." He guided her toward the balcony, hand on her lower back. Emma let him, too tired to argue. The outdoor balcony overlooked Central Park, cool October air a relief after the stuffy ballroom. "Better?" Kyle asked. "Yes, thank you." Emma looked at him. really looked. Saw the tension in his jaw, the way he kept glancing at his phone. Kyle, what's wrong? Nothing, I'm just worried about you. You've been weird all week. Distant. Is it about Jessica? Kyle went white. How do you... My father told me about the affair, about her pregnancy. Kyle's hands shook. He shoved them in his pockets. Emma, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It was a mistake. A stupid mistake when I was stressed about work and the gambling and we'll talk about it later. Emma cut him off. Not here, not tonight. I can't handle the stress right now. Okay, just breathe. Stay calm. For the baby. He left her alone on the balcony. Emma leaned against the railing, breathing the cool air, trying to calm her racing heart. She shouldn't have confronted him. Shouldn't have brought it up. Dr. Richardson's voice. Eliminate stress, not manage it. Behind her, heels clicked on marble. Emma turned. Jessica Lawson stood in the doorway, holding a silver flask. She looked drunk, unsteady. Emma, Jessica said, we should talk. Not tonight, Jessica. Please. He promised he'd leave you. Jessica's voice broke. After your baby came, he said we'd be together. Was that a lie? Did he lie to me? Emma felt exhaustion settle over her like a blanket. Two women, both pregnant by the same man, having this conversation at a charity gala. Jessica, I'm not your enemy. Kyle is. He lied to both of us. Jessica laughed bitterly. You don't get it. You have everything. Daddy's money, the penthouse, the perfect life. I've worked for everything I have. Came from nothing. And he still chose you because of your last name. I'm sorry he hurt you, but I can't do this right now. My blood pressure is already dangerous. I need to stay calm. Of course. Perfect, Emma. Even your stress is more important than mine. Jessica took a long drink from her flask, then another, swaying slightly. Do you want a drink? Oh, wait, you can't, because you're pregnant with the golden baby, the heir to the sterling fortune. She took another swig, then suddenly threw the contents of the flask at Emma. Liquid splashed across Emma's chest, soaking the ivory silk, cold and sharp smelling. Emma gasped. Jessica, what? Then she smelled it. Not vodka, lighter fluid, chemical and unmistakable. Jessica, Emma's voice shook. What is that? Jessica pulled a lighter from her clutch, flicked it. The small flame caught. Vodka mixed with lighter fluid, Jessica said, her voice suddenly flat, sober. All the drunkenness gone. Calculated. Cold. Kyle said it would burn hot and fast. He said you wouldn't suffer long. Time slowed. Emma's brain processed the words but rejected them. Kyle said, Kyle planned this. Kyle told you to kill me? He paid me $50,000, Jessica said. Said the insurance would cover everything. Said we'd split $16 million. Emma's hands went to her belly, protective. The baby kicked hard, sensing her mother's terror. Jessica, please, I'm pregnant. You're pregnant. Don't do this. I have to. I need the money. My daughter needs me. And Kyle promised. Kyle is lying. He's using you. If you do this, you'll go to prison. For a second, something flickered in Jessica's eyes. Doubt, fear. But then she threw the lighter. The flame touched the lighter, fluid-soaked silk of Emma's dress. Fire exploded across her chest, racing up toward her face, down toward her pregnant belly. Emma screamed. The pain was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Fire climbed her arms as she tried to pat it out. Her hands burned. She spun, stumbling, trying to protect her baby, but the flame spread faster. Behind her, someone shouted, running footsteps. Then Marcus, Robert's security chief, hit her like a linebacker, tackling her to the marble floor. They rolled. He ripped off his jacket, smothered the flames. Someone sprayed a fire extinguisher. White foam covered everything. Emma couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her only awareness, pain and terror, and her hands on her belly, searching desperately for movement. The baby kicked, hard, angry, alive. Emma sobbed with relief. She's breathing, Marcus said. The baby's moving. Guests crowded the doorway. 200 people in evening wear. Phones raised, recording everything. Shock and horror on every face. The live stream caught it all. 300,000 people watching in real time. Police tackled Jessica as she tried to slip into the crowd. She was screaming now. It was an accident. I was drunk. I didn't mean to. But her designer knockoff purse lay open on the ground. Police found receipts for lighter fluid. A burner phone, $25,000 in cash, neatly banded. Kyle pushed through the crowd, his face the perfect picture of devastated horror. He dropped to his knees beside Emma as paramedics arrived. Emma, oh my God, baby, I'm here, I'm here. He tried to take her hand, but Marcus blocked him. Don't touch her, Marcus growled. She's my wife. She's my daughter. Robert's voice cut through the chaos like a knife. He shoved past guests, dropping to his knees on Emma's other side. Emma, sweetheart, stay with me. You're okay. You're going to be okay. Emma looked at her father through tears and pain and shock. Then she looked at Kyle. Did you do this? She whispered. Kyle cried. Perfect tears. Perfect devastation. No, God, no. Emma, I love you. I would never. Paramedics loaded Emma onto a stretcher. As they wheeled her toward the ambulance, she heard Jessica screaming at Kyle. You promised! You said I'd be protected. You said... Police dragged her away. In the ambulance, Robert held Emma's burned hand as gently as he could. Dad, Emma gasped. The baby, is the baby... She's strong, just like you. Stay calm, Emma. Just breathe. But Emma wasn't calm. Her body went into shock. Her blood pressure spiked. The baby's heart rate became erratic on the monitor. We're losing the fetal heartbeat, a paramedic said. Go faster, Robert shouted. The ambulance screamed through Manhattan, sirens wailing. Emma felt consciousness slipping away. Her last thought before darkness. Kyle planned this. My husband tried to burn me alive. Mount Sinai Hospital, 11:45 at night. Emma's ambulance arrived at the emergency entrance with police escort. Trauma doctors and OB specialists waited in the bay. Pregnant female, 34 years old, 31 weeks gestation, the paramedic reported. Third-degree burns on 30% of body, primarily arms, chest, and neck. Blood pressure 190 over 120, fetal heart rate dropping, patient in and out of consciousness. They rushed Emma through automatic doors. Robert tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. Sir, family waiting room is... I'm her father. I'm not leaving her. Sir, you can't. Marcus appeared beside Robert. Let him through or I'll carry him through. Your choice. The nurse looked at Marcus, 6 feet 4 inches of ex-FBI intimidation, and stepped aside. They rushed Emma to a combined trauma and delivery suite. Dr. Martinez, the lead trauma surgeon, assessed her burns while Dr. Richardson, Emma's OB, monitored the baby. We need to deliver now, Dr. Richardson said. The shock and burns are putting massive stress on the fetus. If we wait, we lose both of them. She's only 31 weeks, Dr. Martinez said. The baby's lungs will develop in NICU, but only if she's alive. We deliver now. They prepped Emma for emergency cesarean section. Robert stood in the corner, hands shaking, watching doctors swarm his unconscious daughter. Marcus put a hand on his shoulder. She's strong, boss. She'll make it. She has to, Robert said, voice breaking. I can't lose her. Not like Catherine. I can't. You won't. Emma is a fighter. The surgery took 45 minutes. First, they delivered the baby, a tiny girl weighing 2 pounds 8 ounces. She came out crying, lungs working despite being 9 weeks early. She's breathing on her own and a nurse called it. Baby girl, viable, good color. They rushed the infant to neonatal intensive care while Dr. Martinez worked on Emma's burns. Debriding dead tissue, applying grafts, managing fluid loss, fighting infection. At 3 a.m, Dr. Martinez finally emerged from surgery. His scrubs were soaked with sweat and blood. Robert stood immediately. She's alive, Dr. Martinez said. Both of them are alive, but Emma's burns are severe. She'll need multiple surgeries, physical therapy, possibly months of recovery, and infection is a major risk. Can I see her? She's in recovery, sedated, but yes. Robert followed him to the ICU. Emma lay in a hospital bed wrapped in bandages from neck to fingertips. Tubes and wires connected her to machines that beeped and hummed. Her face was untouched by the fire, but her arms, chest, and neck were hidden under white gauze. Robert took her unbandaged foot in his hand, the only part of her he could touch safely. "I'm here, sweetheart," he whispered. "You did it. You and Lily both survived. You're both fighters." Lily, that was the name Emma had chosen months ago. Lily Catherine Sterling Brennan, named after Robert's late wife, Emma's mother. A nurse approached. "Mr. Sterling, the baby is in NICU. Would you like to see her?" Robert looked at Emma, unconscious and bandaged. He didn't want to leave her, but his granddaughter was 3 floors up, alone, tiny, and fighting for life. "Marcus stays with Emma," Robert said. "No one gets in this room without authorization, especially not Kyle Brennan." "Already handled," Marcus said. Robert followed the nurse to the NICU. Through the window he saw rows of incubators. The nurse led him to one in the corner. Inside, smaller than he'd imagined possible, lay Lily. 2 pounds, 8 ounces of determination, breathing with a little oxygen support, eyes closed, fists clenched. "She's a fighter," the nurse said. "Came out screaming, which is rare for 31 weeks. Strong lungs for her size." Robert pressed his hand against the incubator glass. "Your mama is a fighter too," he whispered. "You both are. And I promise you, I will make the people who did this pay for every single moment of your pain." In the hospital waiting room, Kyle sat with his head in his hands. Police Detective Sarah Torres stood in front of him, arms crossed. "Mr. Brennan, we need to talk." "My wife is in surgery. My daughter is in NICU. Can this wait?" "I'm afraid not. How well did you know Jessica Lawson?" "She works at my father-in-law's company. I know her professionally." "Just professionally?" Kyle hesitated half a second too long. "What are you implying?" "We found text messages on Miss Lawson's phone from your number. Would you like to explain those?" Kyle's face went pale. "What text?" Detective Torres pulled out an evidence bag containing Jessica's burner phone, read from the screen. "Wait until she's alone on the balcony. Make it look emotional, like you snapped from jealousy. $50,000 wired when it's done." "I never sent those. Someone hacked my phone, or she faked them." "We also found bank records. You wired $25,000 to Miss Lawson's account 4 days ago. Care to explain?" We were having an affair. I sent her money for an abortion. She was extorting me." "So you admit to the affair now?" "I want a lawyer." "Smart move, because we also found something interesting." Detective Torres leaned forward. "You took out an $8 million life insurance policy on your wife 3 weeks ago, with double indemnity for accidental death. That's $16 million if Emma dies accidentally. Seems like a strong motive to me." Kyle stood up. "I'm not saying another word without my lawyer." "That's your right, but you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder." She read him his rights as officers handcuffed him. They led him out past news cameras already gathering in the hospital parking lot. By morning, every news station in the country would be showing footage of Kyle Brennan being arrested for trying to murder his pregnant wife. But the story was far from over, because bail was set at $10 million, an impossible amount for Kyle, whose finances were destroyed by gambling debts. Until his aunt Patricia Brennan, CEO of Brennan Pharmaceuticals, posted bail with a cashier's check. Kyle walked out of jail 72 hours later, and the first thing he did was file for emergency custody of baby Lily, claiming Emma was mentally unstable and had orchestrated the entire attack to frame him. When Emma woke up 3 days later in the burn unit, wrapped in bandages, barely able to move, her father had to tell her Kyle was free, and he was coming for their daughter. That was when Emma realized the fire was just the beginning. The real fight was about to start. Emma woke up to pain. Not the sharp agony of burning, but a deep, throbbing ache that covered her arms, chest, and neck like a blanket of fire that never quite went out. She opened her eyes. White ceiling, beeping machines, the antiseptic smell of hospital. Her father sat beside the bed, gray and exhausted. "Dad?" Her voice came out cracked and dry. Robert's head snapped up. Relief flooded his face. "Emma, thank God, you're awake." "The baby, Lily, is she?" "She's alive, in NICU, 2 pounds, 8 ounces, breathing on her own. Strong little fighter." Emma tried to sit up, but pain shot through her body. She looked down at her arms, wrapped in white bandages from fingertips to shoulders. How bad? Third-degree burns on 30% of your body. You'll need multiple surgeries, skin grafts, physical therapy. But you're alive, sweetheart. You're alive. Emma closed her eyes, processing. The memory flooded back. Jessica throwing lighter fluid. The flames. The screaming. Kyle, she whispered. Jessica said Kyle paid her. Said he planned it. I know, he's been arrested. Police found text messages, bank transfers, the insurance policy. They have him, Emma. Good. Emma's voice was flat, emotionless. Shock, the doctors would later explain. The mind protecting itself. I want to see Lily. Soon, you need to heal first. No, now please, Dad. I need to see my baby. Against doctor's orders, they arranged it. Two nurses wheeled Emma's bed to the NICU. Through the incubator glass, Emma saw her daughter for the first time. Tiny, perfect, fighting. She's so small, Emma whispered, tears streaming down her face. She's strong, Robert said, like her mother. For 3 days, things seemed to stabilize. Emma's burns showed no signs of infection. Lily's vital signs improved. Kyle sat in jail awaiting trial. Then everything collapsed. On day 4, Kyle's high-powered attorney, Richard Morrison, held a press conference outside the courthouse. Expensive suit, sympathetic expression, carefully chosen words designed to destroy Emma's credibility. My client maintains complete innocence, Morrison said to assembled reporters. The text messages can be easily faked with modern spoofing software. The bank transfer? Miss Lawson was extorting Mr. Brennan over their affair. The insurance policy? A prudent decision given his wife's high-risk pregnancy and history of miscarriages. But what about Jessica Lawson's confession? A reporter called out. Miss Lawson is a disturbed young woman who was manipulated. We believe the real conspiracy is that Robert Sterling, who has never approved of his daughter's marriage, orchestrated this attack to frame my client and force a divorce. The reporters erupted with questions. Morrison raised his hand. I have evidence. Emails from Robert Sterling to his private investigator dated 6 months ago. He held up printed pages. Quote, find a way to remove Kyle from Emma's life permanently. End quote. The email was real. Robert had written it, but he'd meant removed legally through divorce, not murder. Morrison knew this, but presented it to suggest Robert planned violence. By that afternoon, the narrative shifted. Social media exploded with hashtag #FreeKyleBrennan. Think pieces appeared. Was Emma Sterling framed by her own father? Old money versus new money. Class warfare dressed up as criminal justice. Emma watched from her hospital bed, disbelieving. How is this happening? She asked Marcus, who stood guard outside her room. Money buys good lawyers, Marcus said. And Morrison is the best. 2 days later, the judge set bail at $10 million. The prosecutor argued Kyle was a flight risk and a danger to Emma. But Morrison countered, no prior criminal record, deep family roots in Boston, respected businessman. Bail is set at $10 million, the judge ruled. Your Honor, the defendant doesn't have. Bail has been posted by Patricia Brennan, defendant's aunt. Emma's heart stopped. Who was Patricia Brennan? She'd never met Kyle's aunt. Kyle barely mentioned her. Yet this woman just posted $10 million to free the man who tried to kill her. Robert immediately tasked his investigators with researching Patricia, but it was too late. Kyle walked out of jail that afternoon, and 3 hours later, his lawyers filed for emergency custody of Lily, claiming Emma was mentally unstable, possibly had Munchausen syndrome, and may have orchestrated the attack herself as part of a breakdown. That was catastrophe number 1. Catastrophe number 2 came the following week. Emma's burns developed MRSA infection, antibiotic-resistant bacteria that spread rapidly through damaged tissue. Her fever spiked to 104 degrees. She became delirious, barely conscious, as doctors fought to save her life. They rushed her back to surgery, debrided infected tissue, pumped her full of vancomycin, isolated her in ICU. While Emma fought sepsis, unable even to speak, the family court hearing happened. Her lawyer argued her case. But Kyle's team brought medical experts who testified about Emma's mental health struggles after her miscarriages, her high-stress pregnancy, her family's history of depression. The mother is currently in ICU with severe infection, Kyle's lawyer told the judge. She cannot care for an infant. She may not survive. My client is healthy, employed, desperate to bond with his daughter, and the child is being held by hospital staff with no family present. What about the grandfather, the judge asked. Robert Sterling is 74 years old. 64, Emma's lawyer corrected, with a demanding business and no experience caring for infants. My client has a full-time nanny arranged, family support, and temporary custody is granted to Patricia Brennan pending full hearing in 60 days. Patricia Brennan, Kyle's aunt, the woman who posted his bail, the woman Emma had never met. When Emma finally woke from her infection-induced delirium 2 weeks later, her father had to tell her, Lily had been released from NICU to Patricia's custody. Emma hadn't held her daughter in 3 weeks. Emma tried to get out of bed, ripping out IV lines. No, no, that's my baby. Dad, do something. Emma, stop. You'll hurt yourself. I don't care. Get my daughter back. Nurses sedated her. When she woke again, Robert sat beside her bed, looking older than she'd ever seen him. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have protected you better. That was when catastrophe number 3 struck. Robert, 64 years old, consumed with guilt and rage and stress, had a massive heart attack in Emma's hospital room. He clutched his chest, gasped once, and collapsed. Emma screamed for help. Doctors rushed in, started CPR. They shocked his heart 3 times before it started beating again. They took him to cardiac ICU 3 floors away. He was clinically dead for 4 minutes. When they revived him, he slipped into a coma. Emma, too weak to walk, had nurses wheel her to his room. She sat beside his bed, holding his hand, staring at the machines keeping him alive. Dad, please, she whispered. Please don't leave me. I need you. Lily needs you. We're going to get her back, but I can't do it alone. Please. Robert didn't respond, just lay there, gray and still, breathing through a tube. That night, alone in her hospital room, Emma hit rock bottom. Her daughter was with strangers. Her father was in a coma, possibly dying. Her husband was free and playing the victim successfully. The media had turned on her. Half the country thought she faked her own attack. Emma looked at the morphine drip beside her bed, the button that controlled the flow. She could press it, keep pressing it, overdose, end the pain. Her hand moved toward the button. Then the door opened. A nurse Emma didn't recognize came in. Middle-aged, warm eyes, no-nonsense demeanor. What are you doing? The nurse asked. Emma's hand froze. Nothing. The nurse walked over, looked at the morphine drip, then at Emma's face. She saw everything. You thinking about checking out early? Emma said nothing. Tears streamed down her face. The nurse sat on the edge of the bed. Let me tell you about my sister. Married a man who beat her for 8 years. One day he tried to kill her, failed, then used the courts to take her kids. Claimed she was unstable. Crazy, a danger to them. Sound familiar? Emma nodded, unable to speak. You know what my sister did? She fought. For 3 years she fought, gathered evidence, built her case, got a lawyer who believed her, and she got her kids back. Because the truth always comes out. Always. It just takes time. I don't have time, Emma whispered. My daughter is with people I don't know. My father is dying. My husband tried to murder me and everyone thinks I made it up. So prove them wrong. You were a Wall Street analyst, weren't you? Before you gave it up to have a family? You investigated companies, found fraud, built cases. That was different. No, it wasn't. Do that now. Investigate Kyle. Investigate this Patricia woman who posted his bail. Find the truth. Emma looked at her burned hands, still bandaged. I can't even use a computer. Then use your brain. Use your phone. Use that anger I see in your eyes. Turn it into fuel. The nurse stood up, headed for the door, then turned back. I'm putting you on suicide watch, which means I'll be checking on you every 30 minutes. Which also means you have 30-minute blocks to work uninterrupted. Use them. She left. Emma sat alone in the dark hospital room, the morphine button still within reach. Then she picked up her phone instead, typed with clumsy bandaged fingers, Patricia Brennan Pharmaceuticals. The first search result, CEO, inherited $400 million company from deceased husband. Second result, husband died 15 years ago, ruled accidental overdose. Emma's analyst brain, dormant for 2 years, sparked to life. Accidental overdose. Pharmaceutical CEO, inherited 400 million. She kept searching, found the husband's obituary. David Brennan, 52, died suddenly at home. Cause, accidental overdose of prescription heart medication. Survived by wife Patricia Brennan, CEO of Brennan Pharmaceuticals. Emma's fingers flew across the phone, pain forgotten. She searched for news articles from 15 years ago, found a small mention. Family questions death ruling, but medical examiner closes case. Patricia Brennan released brief statement expressing grief. Emma made notes, started building a timeline. Something was wrong here. She could feel it. The same instinct that made her a successful analyst. The pattern was off. At 2 in the morning, still searching, still digging, Emma finally understood. Kyle wasn't the mastermind. He was too weak, too stupid. Someone else planned this. Someone smart enough to use Kyle's gambling debts, his affair, his desperation. Someone who had killed before and gotten away with it. Patricia Brennan. Emma picked up her phone, called Marcus despite the late hour. Marcus, I need you to do something for me. Emma, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything just became clear. I know who's behind this, and I know how to prove it. For the first time since the fire, Emma smiled. They tried to burn her down. They took her daughter. They put her father in a coma. Now it was her turn to fight back. Over the next 2 weeks, Emma transformed her hospital room into a war room. She couldn't walk more than a few steps without exhaustion. Her burned hands could barely grip a pen. But her mind was sharp, and she had one advantage her enemies didn't know about. She was very good at finding hidden money. Marcus brought her a laptop, modified with a special keyboard for her bandaged hands. He also brought her access to something technically illegal. Backdoor entry to Sterling Capital's financial systems. You didn't get this from me, Marcus said. Get what? Emma replied. She started with the obvious, tracking Kyle's financial trail. The gambling debts, the credit errors, the transfers to Jessica. All of that was known to police already. But then she found something interesting. Kyle had signed off on dozens of large transfers from a Sterling Capital accounts over the past 18 months. Standard CFO duties. But Emma noticed a pattern. Every transfer Kyle approved went through 3 shell companies before reaching its final destination. The amounts were just under the threshold that would trigger automatic fraud alerts. Classic embezzlement technique. Emma traced the shell companies, registered in the Cayman Islands, then Luxembourg, then Seychelles. Each layer made it harder to track the money, but Emma had spent 7 years at Goldman Sachs tracking exactly this kind of financial crime. It took her 4 days of continuous work, barely sleeping, but she found it. Every shell company ultimately traced back to the same beneficial owner, Patricia Brennan. $23 million embezzled from Sterling Capital over 18 months. Kyle's signatures on the transfers, but Patricia's accounts receiving the money. Kyle didn't even know he was helping her steal. He thought he was just signing routine transfers, too distracted by his gambling addiction to look closely. Emma made careful notes, saved everything to an encrypted drive. This was evidence, but not enough. She needed more. She researched Patricia's history, found the husband's death certificate from 15 years ago. David Brennan, cause of death, accidental overdose of prescription heart medication. But something bothered Emma. Accidental overdose from heart medication didn't make sense. Those drugs had specific dosing, specific warnings. How did a 52-year-old man accidentally take a lethal dose? Emma called a friend from college, now a forensic pathologist. Rachel, hypothetically, if someone died from heart medication overdose 15 years ago, would you be able to detect murder now? Depends on what they used. Back then, we didn't test for everything. Now, we can detect pharmaceutical-grade compounds that didn't show up on old toxicology screens. What if I had the death certificate, original autopsy report, and maybe tissue samples? Tissue samples from 15 years ago? Who keeps that? Suspicious family members, Emma said. She tracked down David Brennan's sister Claire, who lived in Oregon. Claire had been estranged from Patricia for years, convinced her brother's death wasn't accidental, but unable to prove it. I knew Patricia killed him, Claire said when Emma called, but the medical examiner closed the case, said it was accidental. The police wouldn't investigate. Did you keep any evidence? Emma asked. I kept everything. His medical records, the autopsy report, even some of his blood samples the hospital gave me. I know it sounds crazy, but I couldn't let go. Claire, I need those samples. I'll pay for new toxicology testing with modern equipment. Why, what's Patricia done now? Emma explained everything. The fire, Kyle, the custody battle. Claire was silent for a long moment. Send me the information for the lab. I'll ship the samples today. While waiting for toxicology results, Emma investigated Patricia's pharmaceutical company. Brennan Pharmaceuticals specialized in cardiac medications, the exact drugs that killed David Brennan. Emma called the company's former CFO, who'd been fired 3 years ago and had an axe to grind. Over coffee that Marcus brought to her hospital room, the former CFO revealed interesting information. Patricia runs that company with an iron fist. Anyone who questions her disappears. Not literally, but they're fired, blacklisted, sometimes threatened. Did she have access to drugs? She's the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. She has access to everything. What about potassium chloride? High-grade pharmaceutical quality? The CFO nodded. We manufacture it, for hospitals mainly. Cardiac procedures, lethal in high doses. Emma's hands shook as she made notes. Potassium chloride causes cardiac arrest. Undetectable in 2009 technology because it occurs naturally in the body. Modern mass spectrometry could detect abnormal levels, but 15 years ago, the perfect murder drug for a pharmaceutical CEO. 1 week later, the toxicology results came back. David Brennan's blood samples showed pharmaceutical-grade potassium chloride at levels 5 times normal. Not accidental, not natural. Murder. Emma had her smoking gun, but one murder 15 years ago wasn't enough. She needed to prove Patricia orchestrated the attack on Emma. Needed to connect Patricia directly to Jessica Lawson. Emma's breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Jessica's court-appointed attorney. Marcus arranged a meeting. The attorney visited Emma in the hospital, looking uncomfortable. My client is facing attempted murder charges, the attorney said. She's looking at 20 to 25 years. But she's willing to testify if we can get her a deal. Testify against Kyle? Against Kyle and Patricia Brennan. Jessica says Patricia approached her separately, paid her $200,000 total. Kyle only paid $50,000. Patricia coached her, gave her the idea, provided detailed instructions. Emma leaned forward despite the pain. Can she prove it? She has a burner phone Patricia gave her. Text messages, bank transfers from Patricia's personal account, not Kyle's, and recorded phone calls. Jessica recorded Patricia. She was nervous, wanted insurance, recorded 3 calls on her phone where Patricia explicitly tells her to attack you at the gala, make it look emotional, promises to protect her afterward. Emma's heart raced. This was it. This was everything. What does Jessica want? 8 years instead of 25. She testifies against both, full cooperation, wears a wire if needed. Emma thought about it. 8 years felt light for someone who set her on fire. But without Jessica's testimony, they might not convict either Kyle or Patricia. Tell her we have a deal, but I want something else. What? I want to know why. Why did Patricia want me dead? 2 days later, Emma got her answer. Jessica, wearing an orange jail jumpsuit, sat across from Emma in the hospital's secure conference room. Guards stood outside. Marcus stood inside. Why? Emma asked simply. Jessica looked at her bandaged hands. Patricia said your father had been investigating financial irregularities at Sterling Capital. She said if Robert found what she'd taken, she'd go to prison. She needed him distracted or eliminated. She couldn't kill Robert directly, too obvious. But if you did, he'd be destroyed with grief, focused on that instead of the company. And eventually, she planned to kill Robert too. make it look like grief-induced suicide. Emma's blood ran cold. She was going to kill my father? She's killed before, her husband, obviously, but also a business partner in the 90s. She's good at it, makes it look natural. Heart attack, overdose, suicide. How do you know all this? She told me, bragged about it. She wanted me to understand that she was smart, powerful, untouchable. That she'd protect me because she'd protected herself before. Emma sat back, processing. Patricia Brennan wasn't just a murderer, she was a serial killer who'd been getting away with it for decades. Thank you, Emma said finally, for telling the truth. Jessica met her eyes. I'm not a good person. I did a terrible thing, but I'm not evil like her. She used my desperation, my daughter's medical bills. I thought I was helping Kyle escape an abusive family. She made me believe I was the good guy. You still set me on fire. I know, I'll live with that forever. I'm sorry, Emma, for whatever that's worth. It wasn't worth much, but it was something. Emma spent another week gathering evidence. She worked with Marcus, with FBI agents Marcus knew, with forensic accountants. They built an airtight case. Patricia embezzled $23 million. She murdered her husband 15 years ago. She orchestrated Emma's attack to cover up the embezzlement and eventually kill Robert. She manipulated Kyle and Jessica like puppets. But having evidence wasn't enough. Emma remembered her father's words from when she was young, watching him negotiate business deals. Information is power, but public information is leverage. Patricia had humiliated Emma publicly at the gala, made her look like a liar and a fraud on national television, turned social media against her. Emma needed to return the favor. She needed to destroy Patricia where everyone could watch. That was when Emma came up with the plan. Not a courtroom victory where only lawyers saw justice. A public reckoning. A second gala, 6 months after the fire, where they'd reveal everything in front of cameras and live stream and witnesses. Emma called her father. He'd woken from his coma 2 weeks ago, weak but recovering. Dad, I need you to do something. Anything, sweetheart. I need you to host another gala. Same ballroom, same format. 6 months from the night I was attacked. And I need you to personally invite Patricia and Kyle as guests of honor. Robert was silent for a long moment. Then he started to smile. You want to expose them publicly. I want everyone to watch them fall. The same way everyone watched me burn. This time, the whole world sees the truth. When do we start planning? Right now. We have 4 months to coordinate with FBI, build our presentation, and make sure Patricia and Kyle take the bait. What if they don't come? Emma smiled, cold and determined. They'll come because they think they've won, and narcissists can never resist a victory lap. 4 months after the fire, Emma was released from the hospital. She'd had 7 surgeries, endless physical therapy, and still couldn't make a fist with her left hand. Scars covered her arms, chest, and neck. Visible. Permanent. Reminders. She wore them without hiding. Robert had recovered too, though he looked older, moved slower. The heart attack had taken its toll, but his mind was sharp and his rage was focused. Together, they planned the second gala. Marcus coordinated with FBI. Special Agent Victoria Wright had been building the case against Patricia for embezzlement. With Emma's evidence, David Brennan's toxicology, and Jessica's testimony, they had enough for multiple murder charges. We could arrest her today, Agent Wright said in a planning meeting at Robert's penthouse. Why wait? Because I want everyone to see it, Emma said. I want the same people who watched me burn to watch her fall. I want it live streamed. I want it trending. I want justice to be public. Agent Wright nodded slowly. You want revenge. I want accountability. There's a difference. They sent invitations 3 months before the event. The Sterling Foundation Resilience Gala, honoring survivors of tragedy and supporting burn victim research. Special guests, Kyle Brennan and Patricia Brennan. Robert Sterling extends personal apologies and gratitude for their support during the family's difficult time. The invitation arrived at Patricia's Boston mansion on cream card stock, elegant and understated. Patricia read it over morning coffee, a small smile playing at her lips. She called Kyle immediately. Did you receive the invitation? Yes, Kyle said. It's a trap, Aunt Patricia. It has to be. It's a white flag. Robert is dying. You said so yourself. His heart attack nearly killed him. He wants peace before he goes. This is him surrendering. But Emma is broken. Look at the photos from her hospital release. She can barely use her hands. She's physically and emotionally destroyed. Robert wants to make amends before he dies so Emma can co-parent peacefully. This is exactly what we wanted. Kyle was silent, uncertain. Besides, Patricia continued, the criminal charges are falling apart. Jessica's testimony is questionable, given her mental state. The embezzlement evidence is circumstantial. My lawyers are confident everything will be dismissed or pleaded down to minor charges. Robert knows this. He's cutting his losses. I don't know. Kyle, darling, do you want to see your daughter? Emma has been blocked from custody because of her mental state. But at this gala, if you and Robert publicly reconcile, the courts will see a united family. You'll get joint custody. Isn't that what you want? Kyle did want that. Wanted to see Lily, now 5 months old, whom he'd barely been allowed to visit. Wanted the nightmare to end. Okay, we'll go. Patricia hung up and smiled. Fools, both of them. Robert and Emma thought they were clever, but Patricia had been playing this game for 30 years. She'd killed her husband, killed a business partner, embezzled millions, and gotten away with all of it. One more gala wouldn't change anything. What Patricia didn't know, Emma had hired a private investigator to follow her for 3 months. Every phone call recorded, every meeting documented, every conversation with her lawyers captured. They knew Patricia thought she'd won. That was exactly what they needed. The day of the gala arrived. Same venue, same ballroom, same glittering Manhattan backdrop. But everything else was different. This time, Emma arrived with her father, wearing a black gown that left her scarred arms and chest visible. No hiding, no shame. The cameras flashed, but this time the photos showed strength, not victimhood. Emma, how are you healing? Stronger every day, Emma said. Are you nervous to see Kyle and Patricia? Not at all. Tonight is about truth. Inside, 300 guests mingled, but this time FBI agents were scattered throughout the crowd in evening wear. Plainclothes officers covered every exit, and the live stream, advertised heavily for weeks, had 800,000 viewers watching. Kyle and Patricia arrived together. Kyle looked nervous, tugging at his collar. Patricia looked serene, confident. They entered the ballroom. Cameras swarmed. Patricia gave a gracious speech about forgiveness and family healing. Kyle stood beside her, silent. Emma watched from across the room, waited. Robert took the stage at 9 o'clock. The ballroom went silent. Spotlight on him, cameras focused, live stream active. Good evening, Robert said, his voice carrying to every corner. 6 months ago, in this room, my daughter was set on fire while 7 months pregnant. Tonight, I want to talk about who really lit that match. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kyle's face went white. Patricia's serene expression didn't change, but her hand gripped her clutch tighter. I'm a businessman, Robert continued. I've spent 50 years reading balance sheets, tracking money, finding truth in numbers. So let me share some numbers with you tonight. The screen behind him lit up. Financial documents appeared, blown up large enough for everyone to see. In the 18 months before my daughter was attacked, $23 million was embezzled from Sterling Capital Management. The transfers were signed by my CFO, Kyle Brennan, but Kyle didn't steal this money. Kyle tried to stand, but Marcus appeared behind him, hand on his shoulder. Gentle but firm. Sit down. The money was routed through shell companies, Robert said. Standard embezzlement technique, but every shell company traces back to the same person. Corporate registrations appeared on screen, each one listing Patricia Brennan as beneficial owner. Patricia Brennan, Kyle's aunt, CEO of Brennan Pharmaceuticals, and the real architect of the plan to kill my daughter. The ballroom erupted. Gasps, shouts, cameras flashing. The live stream exploded with comments. Patricia stood, face calm despite the chaos. This is slander. I'll sue you for every... Sue me with what? Robert had asked. The $23 million you stole? Or the $400 million you inherited after murdering your husband 15 years ago? Dead silence. Even Patricia faltered. That's a lie, she said, but her voice was less steady. Is it? Marcus, show them. The screen changed. A video played. David Brennan's sister speaking to camera. I never believed David's death was accidental, she said in the video. I kept samples of his blood and tissue for 15 years. New toxicology results show pharmaceutical-grade potassium chloride at levels 5 times normal. That's not accidental. That's murder. The crowd gasped. Patricia's mask cracked. Her face went from serene to furious in seconds. You had my brother's body exhumed? Yes, Robert said calmly, and we found exactly what his sister suspected. You killed him. For money. For power. And then you did it again. You orchestrated my daughter's attack because you needed me distracted or dead before I found the embezzlement. That's absurd. Kyle planned the attack. I had nothing. Really? Then explain this. New evidence appeared on screen. Text messages from Patricia's burner phone to Jessica Lawson. Bank transfers showing $200,000 from Patricia's personal account. And audio files. Marcus pressed play. Patricia's voice filled the ballroom, crystal clear. Wait for Kyle's signal. Make it look emotional, like you snapped from jealousy. I'll pay you $200,000. You'll spend maybe 3 years in prison, then you're set for life. The crowd erupted again. Reporters shouted questions. Patricia looked around wildly, searching for an exit. FBI agents moved to block the doors. You planned everything, Robert said. You manipulated Kyle. You paid Jessica. You embezzled from my company. You tried to kill my daughter. And you almost succeeded, but you made one mistake. What mistake? Patricia hissed. You underestimated her. Emma stepped into the spotlight, stood beside her father, showed her scars to everyone watching. I'm Emma Sterling, she said into the microphone. 6 months ago, Patricia Brennan paid $50,000 to have me set on fire. She thought I'd die, I didn't. She thought I'd break, I didn't. And now 800,000 people are watching you get arrested for murder. FBI agents swarmed Patricia. Agent Wright read her rights. Patricia Brennan, you're under arrest for murder, conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, and wire fraud. They handcuffed her. Patricia thrashed, screaming, Kyle, tell them, it was your idea. Kyle sat frozen, tears streaming down his face. It wasn't. You told me Emma's father would ruin me. You said the insurance money would save me. You made me think I had no choice. You're pathetic. You've always been pathetic. They dragged her toward the exit. As they passed Emma, Patricia spit at her. Missed. You think you've won? My lawyers will destroy this. I'll be out in a week. Emma stepped closer, voice low enough that only Patricia could hear. You killed your husband and walked away. You embezzled millions and thought you'd get away with it again. But I found everything, every transfer, every text, every recorded conversation. You're not getting out, Patricia. You're going to Tao prison, and everyone will know exactly what you are. Patricia's face twisted with rage and fear. They dragged her out to a police car, cameras capturing everything. The live stream hit 1 million viewers. Kyle was arrested next. Conspiracy to commit attempted murder. Insurance fraud. The handcuffs went on, and he just cried. Emma, he said as they led him away, I'm sorry, I loved you. I really did. I know, Emma said, but love without strength is just weakness. And I'm done being married to weakness. The gala erupted into chaos after the arrests. Reporters swarmed Robert and Emma, questions flying. But Marcus and security cleared a path. Emma walked through the crowd, head high, scars visible, victorious. Outside, news vans lined the street. The story was already trending worldwide. Hashtag Sterling Revenge. Hashtag Justice for Emma. Emma's phone buzzed with messages. Sophie, her best friend, her doctor, her lawyer, all congratulating her, all shocked, all celebrating. One text stood out, from Jessica Lawson, sent from prison. I watched the live stream. You're amazing. Thank you for giving me a chance to tell the truth. I hope someday your daughter knows how strong her mother is. And my mom is fine. Emma didn't respond, just pocketed her phone and got into the car with her father. It's over, Robert said. Not yet, Emma said. Tomorrow I file for full custody of Lily, and I'm going to win. The trials moved quickly after the public arrests. The evidence was overwhelming, the confessions damning, the media scrutiny intense. No jury in the country would let Patricia or Kyle walk free after watching that live stream. Patricia Brennan was tried first. The prosecution presented evidence of 3 murders. Her husband David, a business partner in 1997, whose death was ruled accidental, and the conspiracy to murder Emma. Add embezzlement, wire fraud, and witness tampering. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Patricia's expensive lawyers tried every trick, but video doesn't lie. Audio recordings don't lie. Forensic evidence doesn't lie. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to life without possibility of parole. Patricia, 68 years old, would die in prison. Emma attended sentencing, sat in the front row with her father, Lily in her arms. When Patricia was led out in handcuffs, she looked at Emma one last time. "You destroyed me," Patricia said. "No," Emma replied, "you destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it." Kyle's trial was shorter. His lawyers negotiated a plea deal. 30 years with possibility of parole in 20. He testified against Patricia, confirmed everything, expressed remorse that the judge deemed genuine. Emma didn't attend Kyle's sentencing. Didn't want to see him. Didn't need to. Her lawyer texted her the result. 30 years eligible for parole in 2044. By then, Lily would be in her 30s. She'd never really know her father. That was sad, Emma thought, but it was also justice. Jessica Lawson got 8 years as agreed. She served her time quietly, no interviews, no drama. She'd made her choice, paid her price, and would live with it. The custody hearing was anticlimactic after everything else. Emma's lawyer presented evidence of Kyle's crimes, Patricia's manipulation, and Emma's recovery. The judge took 15 minutes to decide. Full custody to Emma Sterling. Kyle's parental rights terminated. No visitation rights. Emma walked out of that courthouse holding Lily, now 8 months old, healthy and beautiful. Reporters swarmed, but Emma just smiled and kept walking. She took Lily home to a new brownstone in the West Village. Smaller than the Tribeca penthouse she'd shared with Kyle, but it was hers. Safe, clean, a fresh start. That night she sat in the nursery, rocking Lily to sleep, singing softly. Her scarred hands held her daughter gently, carefully. Lily grabbed Emma's finger and yawned. "You're safe," Emma whispered. "You'll always be safe. And when you're old enough, I'll tell you this story. Not to scare you, but so you know. Bad things happen. People hurt us. But we survive. We fight back. We win." Lily fell asleep, thumb in mouth, secure in her mother's arms. Robert visited the next day. He looked healthier now, color back in his face. The doctor said he'd had a close call, but he was recovering well. "How does it feel?" he asked Emma. "Like I can finally breathe." They sat in Emma's living room, Lily playing on a blanket between them. Normal, peaceful, safe. "I'm proud of you," Robert said. "What you did, gathering that evidence while burned and traumatized. It took courage I didn't know you had. I learned it from you. No, you taught me something. I always fought with money and lawyers and power. You fought with truth. That's stronger." Emma smiled. "Truth and money. We made a good team. The best." Over the next year, Emma rebuilt her life. She started the Sterling Phoenix Foundation, supporting survivors of domestic violence and burn victims. The foundation helped 2,000 women in its first year. Emma spoke at conferences, gave interviews, shared her story. She became an advocate for coercive control legislation, helping draft laws about financial abuse. Her testimony before Congress went viral. She was changing systems, not just individual lives. The scars remained. Physical therapy helped, but Emma would never have full use of her left hand. The burn scars on her arms, chest, and neck would fade but never disappear. Emma wore them without shame. They were proof she'd survived, and that was beautiful. A year after the fire, Emma gave a TED Talk. 2,000 people in the audience, millions streaming online. She stood on stage in a sleeveless dress, scars visible, powerful. "When people look at me, they see these," Emma gestured to her scars. "They see a victim, someone who survived something terrible. And that's true. I am a survivor." She walked across the stage, confident despite the pain that still flared in her hands. But I'm also a daughter, a mother, a businesswoman, an advocate, a fighter. And yes, I'm someone who got revenge. Real, public, devastating revenge against the people who tried to kill me. The audience was riveted. Emma stopped center stage. People say revenge is wrong, that it's petty, that you should forgive and move on. And maybe that's true for small grievances. But when someone tries to burn you alive while you're pregnant, when someone orchestrates your murder for insurance money, forgiveness isn't noble, it's naive. She paused, letting the words sink in. My father taught me something. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about accountability. It's about refusing to be silenced. It's about standing in front of 800,000 people with your scars showing and saying, you tried, you failed, I'm still here, and I'm stronger than you ever were. The audience erupted in applause. Emma waited for it to quiet. So yes, I got revenge, and I'd do it again. Because my survival isn't just about me. It's about every woman who's been told to be quiet, to forgive, to move on. It's about showing that we can fight back, that we can win, and that our scars, they're not marks of shame, they're proof we're unbreakable. Standing ovation. Emma smiled real and free and walked off stage. The video of that TED Talk got 20 million views in a week. Emma became a symbol, not a perfect victim, but a real one, flawed, scarred, powerful. She dated eventually, carefully, a few relationships that didn't work out. That was okay. She had Lily, had her foundation, had her purpose. Love would come when it was ready. Robert remained active in Emma's life and Lily's. He cut back on work, spent more time being a grandfather. He'd learned finally that family mattered more than empire. On the one-year anniversary of the fire, Emma returned to the Sterling Grand Ballroom alone. Lily was with Robert. Sophie was traveling. Emma wanted to be by herself. She walked through the empty ballroom, stood on the balcony where Jessica had thrown lighter fluid, where Emma had burned, where everything changed. She looked out over Central Park, October air cool and clear. I survived, she said to the empty air, and I built something beautiful from the ashes. That's enough. That's everything. She pulled out her phone, took a photo of the spot, posted it to social media with a caption, 1 year ago today, I almost died here. Tonight I stand here free, whole, powerful. They tried to burn me down. Instead, they set me free. Happy anniversary to me, to survival, to transformation, to choosing life over fear every single day. The post went viral within hours. Millions of shares, thousands of comments from survivors sharing their own stories. Emma read them late into the night, each one a reminder that her story mattered, that speaking truth gave others permission to speak theirs, that survival created ripples that reached further than anyone could imagine. 5 years after the fire, Emma stood in her bathroom getting ready for work. Lily, now 5 years old, burst in wearing mismatched pajamas and carrying a stuffed elephant. Mommy, I can't find my shoes. And did you look under your bed? Yes. Did you actually look or did you think about looking? Lily giggled. I thought about it. Go actually look. Breakfast in 10 minutes. Emma finished applying makeup, her scarred hands steady now after years of physical therapy. She could make a fist, type, write. Not perfectly, but functionally. The scars had faded to pale pink lines on her arms and chest, still visible but softer. She chose a sleeveless blouse for work. Used to be she'd have hidden the scars. Now, they were part of her story. Nothing to hide. Lily returned, shoes in hand, find them. Found them. Excellent detective work. Now go get dressed. We have school in 40 minutes. Emma made breakfast. Oatmeal with berries, Lily's favorite. Her phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. Seeing you on Good Morning America tomorrow. You're going to be amazing. Emma was publishing a book, Burned, a story of survival and revenge. The publisher expected it to debut at #1. Emma would use the proceeds to fund the Sterling Phoenix Foundation, which now operated in 12 cities and had helped 5,000 women. She drove Lily to kindergarten, kissed her goodbye, watched her run toward the building. 5 years old, confident, happy. No idea about the fire or Kyle or Patricia. That conversation would come when Lily was older. For now, she was just a little girl who loved her mom and her grandpa and her stuffed elephant. Emma drove to the foundation's headquarters. A renovated building in Chelsea, 4 floors of offices, counseling rooms, legal services. Her assistant greeted her with coffee. "Morning, Emma. You have 2 interviews today. A staff meeting at 11 and lunch with the mayor about expanding our shelter program." Normal, busy, purposeful. Emma loved her life now in a way she never had before. Not despite the fire, but because of it. The trauma had burned away everything false, left only truth and strength and clarity about what mattered. That afternoon, Emma visited a group therapy session for burn survivors. 6 women ranging from 20s to 60s, all at different stages of recovery. Emma attended every month, shared her story, listened to theirs. A new member, Maria, spoke haltingly about her husband setting her on fire during an argument. The shame she felt. The guilt, like she'd somehow caused it. "It wasn't your fault," Emma said gently. "Nothing you did justifies violence. Nothing. And these scars?" She held up her hands. "They're not marks of shame. They're proof you survived. You're here, you're alive. That's your victory." Maria cried. The group embraced her. Emma stayed late, talking, supporting, being present. This was her purpose now. Not Wall Street, not being someone's wife. This, helping others find strength in survival. That evening, Emma picked up Lily from her father's house. Robert had kept his word, cut back on work, became a devoted grandfather. He and Lily were building a blanket fort when Emma arrived. "Mommy, look what Grandpa made." "Very impressive. Come on, kiddo. Bath time." Robert walked Emma to the car, Lily running ahead. "How was your day?" he asked. "Good, busy. The foundation is expanding to Boston next month." "Boston? That's Patricia's territory." "Was Patricia's territory. She's in prison, where she'll die." Robert nodded. They didn't talk about Patricia often anymore. Didn't need to. That chapter was closed. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. What you've built. Who you've become." "Thanks, Dad. For everything. For posting Kyle's bail so we could track him. For funding the investigation. For being there. Always." That night, after Lily fell asleep, Emma sat in her home office reviewing foundation applications. A woman in Chicago needed help escaping her abusive husband. A teenager in Miami needed medical care for burns from a house fire. A mother in Portland needed legal support fighting her ex for custody. Emma approved funding for all 3. The Sterling Phoenix Foundation existed to help women who had nowhere else to turn. Women like Emma had been. Women who needed someone to believe them and fight for them. This was revenge, Emma thought. Not the burning kind, the building kind. Patricia tried to destroy her and instead gave her a purpose that saved thousands. Sometimes Emma wondered about Kyle. 30 years in prison. He'd be eligible for parole eventually. Would he try to contact Lily? Would he want a relationship? Emma had already decided. When Lily was old enough to understand, Emma would tell her the truth. Not to punish Kyle, but so Lily knew her history. Then Lily could decide for herself what, if any, relationship she wanted with her father. But that was years away. For now, Lily was 5, safe, loved, growing up in a home without fear or violence or lies. One Saturday, Emma took Lily to the hospital burn unit where Emma had recovered. They visited children who'd survived fires, accidents, abuse. Lily, unafraid of the bandages and scars because her mother wore them proudly, sang songs and drew pictures and made the kids laugh. "Why do we come here, Mommy?" Lily asked on the drive home. "Because we're lucky. We survived. And when we survive, we help others survive too. That's how love works." "Did you survive something scary?" Here it was. The question Emma knew would come eventually. "Yes, baby. When I was pregnant with you, something very bad happened. I got hurt, but I survived because I was strong, and because I had people who loved me, and most importantly, because I had you. You made me want to fight." "Was Daddy there?" Emma's heart clenched. This was the hard part. Daddy was there, but he wasn't able to help. He had problems that made him do bad things. "When you're older, I'll explain more. But what matters is you're safe, I'm safe, and we're together." Lily processed this, serious beyond her years. Okay, Mommy. They drove home listening to Disney songs, the difficult conversation tabled for now. 2 years later, Emma met someone, a widower named Daniel, father of two teenagers, former prosecutor now teaching law. They met at a fundraising event, started talking, realized they had similar stories of survival and rebuilding. They dated slowly. Emma introduced him to Lily after 6 months. Lily liked him, which mattered. Emma didn't remarry, didn't need to. But Daniel became part of her life, a partner, someone who understood trauma and healing and moving forward despite scars. On the 10th anniversary of the fire, Emma returned to the Sterling Grand Ballroom one final time. The venue had been renamed after Emma donated funding to renovate it into a community center. A plaque near the entrance read, Sterling Phoenix Center. From ashes, we rise. Emma stood on the balcony where Jessica had thrown lighter fluid, where she'd burned, where everything changed. But this time, Daniel stood beside her. Lily, now 10 years old, stood on her other side. Robert, 74 and still sharp, stood behind them. What are you thinking about, Mommy? Lily asked. About how strong we are, Emma said. About how sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead to the best parts. About how we survived. Tell me the whole story someday, Lily asked. When you're ready, when you're old enough to understand. I'm strong like you, Lily said. I can handle it. Emma hugged her daughter. Yes, you are. And yes, you can. Not today, but soon. They left the ballroom together, a family rebuilt from ashes. Emma looked back once at the spot where she'd almost died. No fear, no pain, just gratitude. They tried to burn her down. Instead, they set her free, and she used that freedom to build something beautiful, lasting, powerful. The Sterling Phoenix Foundation would outlive her, would help women for generations, would be her legacy, not the fire or the scars or the revenge, but the healing she created from trauma. Emma Sterling lived to 73, died peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by family. Lily was there, now 43, with children of her own. Daniel was there, holding Emma's hand. Robert had died 5 years earlier at 81, proud of his daughter until his last breath. At Emma's funeral, over 2,000 people attended. Women she'd helped through the foundation. Survivors who'd found strength in her story. Advocates she'd mentored. Lives she'd changed. The foundation continued after her death, growing larger every year. And in the foyer of every Sterling Phoenix Center, a photo hung. Emma at her TED Talk, arms raised, scars visible, smiling. Beneath it her words, they tried to burn me down. Instead, they set me free. Patricia Brennan died in prison at 78, unmourned and forgotten. Kyle Brennan was released on parole at 62 after serving 24 years. He tried to contact Lily once. She declined. He died alone 6 years later. Jessica Lawson served her 8 years, was released, and spent the rest of her life working with burn victims, trying to atone. She never stopped apologizing. But this story isn't about them. It's about Emma, who survived being set on fire at a charity gala and turned her trauma into purpose, who got revenge not through destruction, but through transformation, who proved that sometimes the best revenge isn't hurting those who hurt you. It's living so well, so fully, so powerfully, that they become footnotes in your story instead of its ending. They tried to burn Emma Sterling alive. Instead, they gave her wings.